think you missed it. I gave my retirement speech on the court last Saturday, and I gave it in the press conference afterwards, and nobody except William Payne figured it out.
You're going to retire?
This is up to the university.
You want to come back?
I didn't say that.
Well, that's one way to finish a college basketball season. Syracuse falls to Wake Forest in the second round of the ACC Tournament, 77-74. And more importantly, that may have been the last time Jim Boeheim roams the sidelines as the head coach of Syracuse men's basketball. Hi, everybody. Welcome into Orange Press Pass with Carson Fowler and Sam Reis. I'm John Eads. Guys, what do you make of his comments? Year 47 of Coach Boeheim at Syracuse. And Carson, is it his last based on those comments?
John, I don't know what to think from those comments. I mean, 1,000 wins, 47 seasons for the head coach of Syracuse. You got to think it might be over, right? But it was very confusing. Even the reporter was asking him multiple times, what are your plans? Be more specific. And he's like, I told you right then and there. He clearly did not. I'm still confused.
Yeah, sometimes, John, it's hard to decipher exactly what Boeheim's trying to say. And I'll say this much, whether it was a clear statement that he is going to retire or not, the hints are clearly there, Carson, that we're nearing the end of the road for Boeheim. Whether he's retiring now, I'm not sure yet.
All right, well, for now, we don't know. He said he's going to speak to the school. He's going to speak to whoever the school officials are. Apparently, it's not his choice. But as of right now, Syracuse is coached by Jim Boeheim, and he coached the team today. And Syracuse has lost to Wake Forest in the ACC Tournament. It was quite a game. This is kind of stealing the show. Let's break it all down, how it all went down today in Greensboro. Syracuse taking on Wake Forest in the second round. It looks cold there in Greensboro, but it actually wasn't. It was 60 degrees today, if you can believe it or not. And both offenses played well all game long. It was Wake Forest, the instigator, early taking the lead. Syracuse was hanging around, though, thanks to Chris Bell. He scored a basket, got a rebound, set up Benny Williams for another basket. So the Orange were kind of sticking in there. It was pretty back and forth for that entire first half. Minutes later, Jesse Edwards soccer pass to Chris Bell for a three in the corner. Both teams going back and forth, but then Syracuse and Wake Forest both go on runs. Nearing the end of the first half here, gets the Tyree Appleby near side. The Demon Deacons down 6. Davian Williamson in the corner drains it 27-24. And then Appleby drove to the cup and cut the deficit down to just 2 heading into the second half of play. Now, the Demon Deacons came out firing in the second. Watch this. Bobby Klintman up top from Appleby. He sends it down. The Wake Forest offense capitalizing up 13. So Judah Mintz needed an answer for Syracuse, and he got one. Step back trifecta. Then 4 minutes later, JG3 gets open, and he takes care of the rest. The Orange down 1. Under 4 minutes to go. Judah Mintz back at it again. Dribbling, waiting, and splash. He hits another. He's been on a heater lately. Now, final minute. This was fun, folks. It was a prize fight. Williams, open downtown. Count it. That's a righty jab for Syracuse. The Orange up 2. Now 40 seconds to go. Wake Forest looking for an answer. Check this out. 360 no-scope from Cam Hildreth, even at 74 apiece. JG3 the hero? No. That was on the final play for Syracuse. Play continues. Appleby back to Williamson on the wing. Bang! Wake Forest takes down Syracuse and sends the Orange home, ends their season 77-74. Steve Forbes fired up because that was Wake Forest's first win in the ACC Tournament since 2017. Guys, what a spectacular game. That final minute right there would suffice enough watching this one.
John, I really thought Syracuse was going to get away with a W here. 18 points for Benny Williams. Hit that big 3 to put Syracuse up by 2. I thought they had it. He comes his third double-double of the season. It just flat out fell apart. Another tough loss for the Orange.
It was right there for the taking, Carson. It was a game of runs, quite frankly, but yet again, the Orange unable to close out.
We'll get into this show. We'll get into this in the show rather later on. Syracuse now 5-6 in games decided by 5 or less points. We're now joined by a reporter from today's game, Jacob Morris, live in Greensboro. He was in the press room to hear Coach Boeheim's comments post-game, kind of the speculation about what is Coach doing. Is he coming back for another year or is he retiring? Jacob, I want to ask you, since you were in that press room, what was the reaction from the reporters and everybody else in there when Coach Boeheim was answering the question as to if he's returning or not?
Hey, John, good to be with you for a second day in a row. You're exactly right. All anybody can talk about right now inside the Greensboro Coliseum is Jim Boeheim. And inside the press room where we all were, it started at first with kind of a nervous laugh that went around the press room because he started talking about Roy Williams and Mike Krzyzewski and Mike Bray, who coached his last game with Notre Dame just last night. And at first it just seemed like a nice sort of, a little bit more of a sentimental Jim Boeheim than we're used to. And then he kind of dropped a bit of a joking line where he said, as you guys listened to a bit earlier, you know, I gave my retirement speech just last week against Wake Forest and nobody picked up on it, and then he kind of walked it back. The fact of the matter is nobody really knows what's going on right now, but at least initially it sounds like Jim Boeheim might have coached his last game at Syracuse, and after 45 plus years at the helm in the 3-1-5, that's obviously a massive deal. It almost overshadows the loss to Wake Forest today in the second round.
Jacob, that last play for Syracuse, Jim Boeheim calls timeout with a little over 30 seconds to go. That was not the play that he had drawn up. I don't think Joe Girard taking a fadeaway jumper about 20 feet away from the basket. Who was that play originally drawn up for the last play for the Orange this season?
Carson, it's a great question, and it was the question on a lot of Syracuse fans' minds after that play because Syracuse has a timeout. You think, good, Jim Boeheim and company able to draw something up for this final play. And what Jim Boeheim said post-game is it was supposed to be high-low action from Benny Williams to Jesse Edwards. Benny Williams got the ball on that final play, if you remember, on about the right elbow, turned to drop it down to Jesse Edwards, and he just wasn't available. At that point, he passes the ball over to Joe Girard. And Boeheim said he would have liked to see Girard attack the hoop, but the senior said that was the best shot he thought he could get, a step back that quite frankly never had a chance. And from there, it was just a scramble and a wide open look for Wake Forest. The Demon Deacons cash in. Not the last possession Syracuse wanted on offense or defense. You'd hope to get something a whole lot better than the Orange got with that Joe Girard step back shot.
Jacob, great to see you. I'll stay on the topic of Joe Girard, and that's because it was a very underwhelming performance from the seniors. So what did Wake Forest do to really frustrate him and lock him down throughout the afternoon?
Joe Girard was pretty much a non-factor in this one. Obviously missed on that last shot, Sam. But 9 points throughout this one, not what you would want to see from the senior and what could be potentially. We don't know for sure his last game in Orange. What Wake Forest did really well is they were physical with the guard. They picked him up, they went over screens, they switched when necessary. But Syracuse oftentimes runs action where Jesse Edwards sets a down screen for Joe Girard and then flips around and sets another screen for him. Wake Forest was through it. They switched, they made it hard on the senior. But also something that was really interesting is throughout this season, Joe Girard has developed the ability, even at his small size with a smaller frame, to post up guards. And when Girard went into that action, started posting up Wake Forest guards, the Demon Deacons weren't shy about sending double teams. I thought that was a really interesting way to get the ball out of the hands of Joe Girard. And other than that, he just couldn't hit shots. And it was an unfortunate end of the season for Syracuse, and obviously an unfortunate end of the season for Girard as well. We'll see what he ultimately chooses to do. He said post-game in the locker room, no timetable on his decision. Hasn't talked to his family yet about potentially coming back to Syracuse. Could be a matter of days, could be a matter of weeks. We just don't know. We'll wait.
All right, Jacob, well, thank you so much for joining us. Enjoy the rest of your time in Greensboro. Good luck catching your flight back home as well. I know you've had some struggles with that lately. Here's something, though. Syracuse has never made it past the quarterfinal round in the ACC Tournament. Neither have I or Jacob Morse. Time for a quick break here on Orange Press Pass. When we come back, we'll talk about Joe Girard III's real lackluster play today. Benny Williams was great for Syracuse. We'll also give you our Orange Press Pass player of the game. Keep it right here. Syracuse men's basketball fails to win 20 games for the fourth consecutive season. The Orange fall today to Wake Forest, 77-74 in the ACC Tournament. Welcome back to Orange Press Pass with Carson Fowler and Sam Reis. I'm John Eads. Guys, the Orange lose, but perhaps a bright spot for Syracuse is Benny Williams today. He starts the final 4 games of the year and his third double-double of the season today. Was this kind of just a flash in the pan, or were you impressed by his play today? You think you could find that consistency?
John, you know what I was excited about for Benny Williams? His confidence. Shooting the three-pointer a little bit better recently. He was 3 for 5 today, and he's 9% last season, 38% this season. He's not taking a lot of three-pointers, but I like that he's mixing it up. It makes his game a little wider. He's not as much low-high as it used to be, a lot of pull-up jumpers. This year, kind of expanding out a little bit. He had 18 points, 11 rebounds in this game. Like you said, third double-double this season.
For me, I also agree with you in the sense that it was his mindset that stood out in this one. Right off the bat, Carson, he came into this one with a lot of energy. You could tell he wanted it, and that's not the type of mindset we've seen from Benny Williams all season. We can't forget, he also had 5 steals in this game, so he was working hard at both ends. Love the work ethic from Benny in this game.
18 and 11 today for Williams for Syracuse. He had to step up because Joe Girard III was a ghost today. Wake Forest was essentially face guarding him, not letting him be the guy that's going to beat this team today. So what'd you think of JG3's play when he was allowed to make plays, Sam?
I think it was very disappointing. He's a senior, a leader of this team. Syracuse needs him to step up in big moments like this to have success, and that's something he simply wouldn't do. Sure, Wake did a good job of shutting him down, but Joe Girard, he had 4 turnovers in this game as well, some sloppy ones at times, just didn't find a rhythm. And for a senior, Carson, you expect him to go out, be hungry to win this game, and put on his best performance. He just wasn't himself today in his final college game.
Well, Sam, you said it best. He was not hungry in this game at all. Only shot the ball 8 times from the floor. Obviously, only converted 2 of those. Scores just 8 points. He had 16 points last Saturday against the Demon Deacons. John, you made a great point. They were face guarding him the whole game, but something he's got to do better. He's their senior leader. He's got to take over these games, get off ball screens, move around, call for screens. You got a 6'11" big guy in Jesse Edwards right next to you. Call him for a screen and get the action going. Joe's got to play better.
Well, I was curious to see what adjustments Syracuse would make in the second half because Wake Forest face guarded him in the first half, and they didn't really do much different in the second. You mentioned the first matchup when he had 12 points. He shot the ball 8 times in that game, too. Difference was he scored 5 field goals today, or in the first matchup, just 2 today. So, again, Joe Girard III, not a big factor today for Syracuse, and that's why the Orange lose another close game. We're going to get into this later in the show, but it was just like heartbreak all over again for Syracuse this year.
John, Syracuse 5-6 in games decided by 5 points or less. I mean, at home versus Virginia on January 30th, and then a 4-point loss at Miami January 17th. Quad 1 wins slipping away, and the Orange desperately needed them this season. They were 1-4 this season against Quad 1. You can't do that when you're trying to get in the NCAA tournament, which they haven't done since 2019.
It was the same old story, wasn't it? And it came all the way down to the last game of the season for Syracuse. They didn't learn their lesson throughout the year, had plenty of these close games, and a lot of them they came out on the losing end. This was another example of that. Down the stretch, Syracuse just couldn't get it done, John.
Well, Syracuse loses another close game today, and that puts the Orange at 5-6 this year in games decided by 5 points or less, so that pretty much encapsulates the entire season. Now, for our Orange Press Pass player of the game, it's somebody that contributed to that stat for Syracuse. Another close game, and Davian Williamson was the hero today for Wake Forest. He only had 11 points in the first matchup against Syracuse. He goes for 17 today, hits 6 shots and 4 threes. None more important than that final 3-pointer he had to put Wake Forest over Syracuse, 77-74 the final score, and Davian Williamson, the hero for the Demon Deacons, as they pick up their first win in the ACC Tournament since 2017. All right, time for another break here on Orange Press Pass. When we come back, we're doing something called Orange Rewind. What is that exactly? You'll have to stay with us to find out.
Welcome to an excellent episode of Live from Studio B.
Syracuse men's basketball season is over, but Orange Press Pass is not. We get to roll on, guys. How about that? Carson, Fowler, Sam Reis. I'm John Eads. Now it's time for something called Orange Rewind. So since Syracuse men's basketball season is over, we're going to look back at some of the key moments, our favorite moments, funniest moments, a lot of different stuff from this past season. We start with what ifs, and really it was a season full of what ifs, but we can't replay the entire Syracuse basketball season because we'll be here till June, July, I don't know. So Carson, we'll start with this one. Your biggest what if of the season?
Well, John, I brought it up in our last block. Miami, when they needed it so bad back on January 17th, it was a 4-point loss, 82-78. They had a really great game offensively, 78 points, 46 points combined from Jesse Edwards and Joe Girard. Defense was the killer in that one. 19 fouls. Miami ended up converting 25 for 28 free throws rather, and limited Isaiah Wong to 1 of 8 on field goals. Maybe their highlight of the day, but that was what they really needed. That was a quad win opportunity down in Miami.
Well, I'm going to focus on a player, Carson, rather than a particular game, and that's Benny Williams. And what I want to say is, what if Benny Williams performed to his full potential throughout the course of the season? He showed today, guys, what he is capable of. This is a skilled player, make no mistake about it, but there was a portion of that season too long, everyone would agree, where he just wasn't himself, rarely making an impact, even had to sit out that Virginia game where he didn't show up. So it went downhill for Benny. It's great to see him bounce back today, but Syracuse was looking for that 4th scoring option all season long. If he could have played like today all season long, we could be talking about a different story, John.
I'll put it to you like this. Sorry, Jeff.
And John, I'll add something there. You mentioned a great point. Needed that 4th scorer. In games where Benny Williams played 30 minutes or more, 7 of those 8 games, double-figure scoring.
X Factor.
X Factor and Benny Williams.
I've put it to you like this. Benny Williams is like me when I make bacon. Some days I'm great, and I mean some days that's kind of, I put a cherry on top of it. It's not usually that good. I usually burn it. It's too crispy. But anyways, funniest moments of this season now. Was this season filled with funny moments? If you hate Syracuse basketball, Sam, should you pinpoint one?
Yeah, the one funny moment I have to pinpoint, and Syracuse might not be the ones laughing about this, but that's Joe Girard turning the ball over, giving it away under the basket to North Carolina, who got an easy bucket for 2, and that ultimately helped them win the game. Remember, the Orange were in control at that point. North Carolina missed its free throw, and Girard, trying to save it from going out of bounds, passed it right underneath the basket to gift UNC 2 points, and that's another game that Syracuse could have had, Carson.
I totally agree. I remember that. John, you're going to love my funniest moment. We've got a soundbite from when you talked to Jim Boeheim just a couple of weeks ago about how they can't close games late. Another opportunity today. Couldn't close. Let's see it.
It's the second game you lost by 4 points in the span of 8 days. Why can't your team close out big games?
We're done.
Well, they are done now.
Well, they're definitely done, John. Hey, I don't think he thought it was funny, but I think you and I and Sam definitely thought it was.
Well, I hit him where it hurts because we still don't have an answer. Chance to close the game today, up 2. They lose. Okay.
And we said it multiple
Did my
times
job.
earlier in the show.
Yep.
5 and 6 in games decided by 5 points. Again, Wake Forest, season ending, lost by 3. Game winner to Davian Williamson.
Yeah.
Another super close loss. Syracuse obviously on the wrong end of it.
Well, what if I told you that Benny Williams would hit a 3 to put Syracuse up 2 with about a minute to go in the game? You'd probably think they would win, right? They lose. That was a big surprise. Now we go and zoom out to the whole season. Carson, biggest surprise of the year from a player standpoint or team standpoint?
I'm going with Judah Mintz. Hey, listen, I know he's the 54th ranked recruit coming out of high school, 2nd in Virginia, a 4-star recruit. But did anyone expect he would be the 2nd on the team in scoring at 16.2 points per game? The team leader in assists, which was 4.5. He was criticized very early on in the season that he wasn't sharing the ball enough. Led the team in steals. I believe he was top 2 in the ACC. Season 9 24, and he was named to the All-ACC freshman team, the 2nd most votes behind Kyle Filipowski.
May have gotten snubbed.
Probably.
Would say. What about you, Sam?
Yeah, my biggest surprise is one specific moment, and this is a moment Syracuse will look back on and smile about, and that's Jesse Edwards knocking down a triple. Who could have seen that coming in a million years? Of course, that was Syracuse's lone win over a ranked opponent, and some could even argue that that 3-pointer from Edwards provided a spark for this team down the stretch in one of the rare close games they won. Everyone loves the big man hitting the 3. Hey, he's 100% in his career from beyond the arc.
1 for 1.
First career attempt, first career make, and it came in probably probably the highlight of the season, and on Valentine's Day. So Syracuse 1-0 on Valentine's Day, also when Melo comes to the Dome. So that would have been nice if they were in every game, and if every game was on Valentine's Day. You guys ever been to Build-A-Bear, the workshop?
I have not.
You have not?
I can't say
No?
I have either.
Okay, well, we're going to pretend like we're going there right now. We're going to build the future five of Syracuse basketball. Carson, I got the toolbox. Take it.
All right, for me, it's Judah Mintz, it's Justin Taylor, it's Hima Nahira, and then it's probably Benny Williams, and that's my five. I think that was 5 players. I think I almost counted 6, but there's only 5 players playing a basketball game. I think Judah Mintz is the key X factor for this team. He has to come back for next season. He is our second leading scorer. You got to think that Jesse Edwards is going to go. You got to think that Joe Girard's going to go. I can't see him coming back for another season. That's maybe up for debate. He is the guy. I know he's projected to be a second-round pick in the NBA draft. A lot of guys like him. He's a big scorer. He gets to the basket with ease, but that's my 5 right now. I don't know what the Syracuse season looks like for now.
Listen, I can't argue too much with that starting 5 at all, Carson, as it stands right now. And Judah Mintz, if he comes back, will be a key player for this team. But I'm also concerned in certain areas, and that's in particular the center position. That's a big concern of mine. I don't know if I trust Monir Hima. Of course, right now, if the roster is what it is, he would be the one I'd put in there. But I don't know if I can trust him. He doesn't have much experience yet. I haven't seen too much from him to say, yes, this will be the big man that will help Syracuse succeed. So could the Orange perhaps look into the transfer portal and dig into some players elsewhere to bring in? Because that's an important position, and with Jesse Edwards gone, someone has to step up.
Well, they tried to do that last year, and they brought in Monir Hima, but wasn't much success. Now, as a disclaimer, Jesse Edwards and Joe Girard can come back for Syracuse, as can Judah, obviously, just a freshman this year. So we await their decisions. Keep it locked to @CitrusTV Sports on Twitter for more on that. Coming up next on Orange Press Pass, Syracuse's season might be over, but the ACC Tournament rolls on, and there was also some fun stuff in the NCAA Tournament as well that's coming up that we need to look at. That's coming up next on OPP.
Here you go.
Thank you.
Thank you.
One in 3 adults has pre-diabetes. That means it could be you, your favorite brother, your other brother, you, your football buddy, your football buddy, you, your plumber,
Breathe right into your foot.
your plumber's masseuse,
Yes.
you, your dog walker, your cat jogger. With early diagnosis, prediabetes can be reversed. Take the risk test at doihaveprediabetes.org.
Wrapping up shop here on Orange Press Pass for basketball season because the Syracuse men's basketball team lost, which means we got to wrap it up and head into lacrosse season. Back with you here on OPP for a few more minutes. Syracuse loses to Wake Forest today, 77-74 in the ACC Tournament second round with Carson Fowler and Sam Reis. I'm John Eads. Guys, Syracuse out probably on a bus to get on a plane back here to the Salt City, but the tournament's still going on, and there's been some very competitive games already. One going on right now, Pittsburgh and Georgia Tech. The Panthers currently leading the Yellow Jackets by 7, but If they win that game, they take on the top seed in Miami. You guys have any predictions for how you see this tournament field playing out?
Well, John, they could take Miami out in the first. It's in the second round, excuse me. They'll play in the quarterfinals. They're playing Georgia Tech right now, like you said. They led 44-31 at the half. Now they're only down 7. Not a great second half for them. They have Nick Sabande, the ACC Sixth Man of the Year, on their squad. Jamarius Burton, Federico. It's actually Federico.
Yeah.
Combined 27 points, 10 for 13 field goals in the first half. Really solid start. I think they'll come away with that, and they might give Miami a run for the money.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what, this has been a fascinating conference all season long, sort of wide open in my opinion, because there isn't really a clear front runner. So you were talking about the teams on the bubble, but the teams higher up in those standings, looking at a potential ACC champion. I like what I've seen from the Cavaliers. That might be a bold take, but I think experience is a huge factor in a tournament like this, where you need to win 3 games in 3 days if you're those 4 higher seeds.
Well, one of those teams that needs to bolster its resume in the tournament is Pittsburgh, currently playing Georgia Tech. That's a dangerous Yellow Jackets team, guys. But here are the 3 teams on the bubble right now: Clemson, Pittsburgh, North Carolina. Who needs to win at least 2 games to make it into the field?
I have to go with Clemson. I think Clemson is a team that's they had a great start to the season, don't get me wrong, but as of late, they have tripped up a little bit. They're currently the next 4 out in a lot of bracketology rankings. So for this Tigers team, I think they got to get to the semifinals to get in. I really do.
John, I think Tar Heels, another team that got to win at least 2 games. They're 1-9 against Quad 1 and 6-3 against Quad 2. Their only Quad 1 victory was that home win against Virginia just a couple of weeks ago. Pitt, though, 21-10. It's hard to believe a team that's won 14 games in the ACC Conference Tournament is a last 4 byes. I think that's criminal. I think the Pittsburgh team has been disrespected and overlooked all season long. They should be in.
Well, Pittsburgh team that swept Syracuse this year in the regular season. They need a couple of wins to make the NCAA tournament, but Syracuse is out. Season's over. Guys, time for final thoughts, and these are the actual final thoughts. Carson, we start with you.
John, Syracuse was dominated down low in this game. 36 paint points for Wake Forest. Syracuse only had 26. Bobby Klintman and Andrew Carr combined for 27 points and 19 rebounds in this game. A lot of in part because Jesse Edwards had 4 fouls with 9 minutes to go in this game. The similar thing happened against UNC towards the end of the season. Couldn't get it there. Couldn't get it today.
I can't help but focus on how that game ended. It was sort of a fitting way to end the season for a Syracuse team that couldn't close out games. A poor shot by Joe Girard, and Wake Forest wins it at the end.
That's the story of the season for Syracuse men's basketball: losses in close games. And that's all the time we have for Orange Press Pass this season. For Sam Reis and Carson Fowler, I'm John Eads saying goodbye.